And the Torah says like this: Lo sira, it's right. It's about 7 lines from the bottom. Lo sira es shor achicha o es seyo nidochim. You should not see your fellow's ox or sheep wandering the salamta mehem and ignore them. Hashev teshivim lechich. You got to return it. So here we open up the entire concept of returning lost objects. So you see the guy's ox or you see the guy's sheep and they're wandering about, and you can tell by the way they're wandering, you can tell that they're lost. That's what the Gemara talks about. If you can see that they're grazing and it's obviously under supervision, you don't return them. But if you see the guy, you see them wandering in a way that they're obviously not in the right place, so you have to return them. And then the Torah describes the various factors that go into it. Vim karov achicha elecha v'lo yadato. If your brother is not near you, so take the animal into your house, and you should keep the animal with you until your fellow comes and asks for it. So the idea of lost objects, there are many halachas over here. Ironically, the more valuable something is, the easier it is in halacha to be able to keep it. And that's based on a principle of yush. Yush means that a person, it's often translated as giving up hope, but that's literally what it means. But better from a halachic point of view is giving up expectation. That means if you lose something, if you've dropped something and it's got your name and address and phone number on it, and you drop it in Bnei Brak, so you expect to get it back. If you drop a $20 bill anywhere in the world, you don't expect to get it back. You hope to get it back. You don't expect to get it back. And that's why, for me to keep something, several factors are needed. Number one, there's no identifying signs on it. And by the way, writing your name on money does not count as an identification because the money may have changed hands. Otherwise, you'd find my name as often as you find Ben Franklin's name. So you can't, writing your name on money doesn't help. But if you write your name on a basketball, if you write your name on a sefer, and it's got your address, and it's in a frum area, you expect to get it back, so that you have not given up expectation of getting it back. What has to happen is 2 things. When I find it, by the time I find it, if I could assume you've given up expectation, and there's no identifying signs, then I'm allowed to keep it. Therefore, the easiest thing to be able to keep is money. Because most people very quickly, according to the Gemara, people are constantly touching their pocket, their wallet, to see where their money is. If you dropped $100, you'll know about it pretty quick. And there's no identifying sign on it. And therefore, if I find $100, under most circumstances, I could keep it. If you want to be a good Jew, and in the yeshiva you find $100 on the floor, by the letter of law you could keep it. But I want to be a good guy, so I put up a sign, if anybody lost money, come and see me. You don't put up if anybody lost $100. It's like the kid who comes up to a guy and he says, hey buddy, I found $100, did you happen to lose it? He says, yeah. Why, did you find it? Or a kid comes up to the guy and says, did you happen to lose $100? He goes, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. Did you find it? He goes, no, but you're the 14th person today who's lost $100. So you don't put up a sign that says, I found $100. You put a sign, I found money. And then the person comes over and says, he has to idea where he might have lost it. Yeah, I think I lost it right in somewhere in the base medrash towards the back, and it was $100 in 5 20s. What do you call it? There? Okay, it sounds like it might be. You're not by letter of law. You might not be obligated, and the rule is that if you don't know, ask Rabbi Breitowitz. What do you do? Are you allowed to keep it? Do you have to give it back? That's the general rule. Something insignificant, ironically. Let's say you find a bag of tissues, or let's say you find a pen. A lot of people don't know they've lost the pen because they're not constantly checking for it, not constantly checking for their tissues. But I may have found it before you gave up expectation, and therefore I'm not allowed to keep it. I can't give it back to you. I have to set it aside till Eliyahu Hanavi comes. There are poskim that say that what you do under those circumstances is you write down in a notebook how much money you owe when Eliyahu Hanavi comes, and you could use the tissues. use the tissues, but just write down in a notebook, when Eliyahu Navi comes and he tells me who the tissues belong to, I owe the guy $3. And write it down in a notebook. So there is room for that. But in general, it's an attitude. And the attitude is, just because somebody lost something, finders keepers, losers weepers, that's inconsideration. Finders keepers, losers weepers means that I'm not concerned about other people's. Rabbi Pam, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'das, so one of his sons once found, I think it was about $50. So we're going back to the 1950s or 60s, where that's a lot of money. So he found about $50, and he asked his father, though. His father said he found it somewhere on the streets of New York, and his father says, yeah, you by the letter of law, you get to keep it. So he said, great, and he wanted to go out and buy a bicycle. His father says, don't buy the bicycle. Took the money and put it on the shelf. 2 weeks later, he said to his son, okay, now you can go buy a bicycle. He said, what happened? He says, look, you found $50. By the letter of the law, it's yours. But just think to yourself, somebody lost that $50 and he's upset. I assume that within 2 weeks, something else happened, that his mind is on something else now, he's gotten over it. But how can you go and enjoy it knowing that there's another human being who right now is upset? You're taking advantage of somebody else's misfortune. How can you do that? That was what he told me. Just say, not that he has to, not obligated to. Just say, what do you go? We're gonna ask something?
No.
Not obligated. Just for your own character development. For your own character development. It's not good for your mitos to go and dance on somebody else's blood, as they say.
It's only meant to receive it. It's meant for you.
Yeah, it's mine. Okay, so wait 2 weeks. You'll get a bicycle, but you don't have to do it right now. Yeah, absolutely.
I have to wait 2 weeks for him to be.
No, you don't have to be. No, it's not a question. Not from a halachic point of view. The yush happened immediately. He wasn't telling him. He was saying from a halachic point of view, it's yours immediately. He was saying to him that you're right, it's yours. But for you to go and enjoy the money while somebody else is in pain is insensitive. And that insensitivity, wait a while. Now, by after 2 weeks, we could assume that this guy is no longer in as much pain. He came to terms with it. Within 2 weeks, he probably came to terms. He's only trying to communicate a musar idea, not a halachic idea. He's saying communicate. This is like many things that we do. For example, we cover the challah on Shabbos. And the reason we cover the challah on Shabbos is because the challah, right? You cover the challah when you make kiddush. Why do we cover the challah? So there are two reasons that are given. One reason is because the manna that came from heaven had a double covering. But there's another reason we cover the challah, because the challah is bread is normally the star of the show. And on Friday night, when you make kiddush, the wine is the star of the show. So in order that the bread shouldn't be humiliated, we cover the bread. To anybody with a rational mind, that sounds irrational, because bread is an inanimate object and has no feelings whatsoever. Yeah, proven by the fact that I cut it with a sharp knife every Friday night and it never screams. Right? So bread has no feelings whatsoever. So why are we doing it? We're not doing it for the bread. We're doing it for ourselves. We're doing that. We should become more sensitive. If I'm going to be sensitive to bread, I'll be sensitive to human beings also. And it's a practice. And Judaism is a form of practicing to refine our own character traits. So all Rav Pam was emphasizing to his son was, you know what, you could do what you want. It's yours. You could do what you want. But really, maybe just think about the fact that somebody else is. I just saw there was a baby was born. So the father wanted to name the baby after his father. Yaakov. And the mother was nervous. Why? She didn't want to name after his father because in the very building that they lived in, there was a little boy named Yaakov who had been nifter in a different family. And she thought it was a bad omen to name a name that a little boy somewhere nearby had died. There's no grounds for that. And the husband said, listen, that's ridiculous. There's no grounds for that. You don't have to worry, but that's a different family. It has nothing to do with us. And she said, yeah, but I don't want to do it. So they didn't know what to do. And the husband said, I want to name after my father, which he has rights for. Okay. So they went to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, that's all. They asked Rav Shlomo Zalman what to do. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, don't name him Yaakov. So why not? It was a bad omen, but there is no, he said it has nothing to do with omens. But I'm just thinking 5 years from now, when your son Yaakov is a little boy outside playing, and your wife is going to stand by the window and she's going to say, Yaakov, come inside. And the other mother who lost the child, Yaakov, is going to hear that name Yaakov. What's that other mother going to feel? Right? Therefore, don't name him Yaakov. He said when Reb Chaim Kanievsky heard this, Reb Chaim Kanievsky started crying when he heard that psak. The sensitivity, you see, if you try to guess where was Reb Shlomo Zalman coming from? Where is he coming from with that? What was he thinking? And at the end, he's thinking something none of it. I don't know. I would never thought that. And he's already thinking down the line what's going to happen to that mother who lost the child. And therefore, don't name him Yaakov. How do you like that? That's much more important. Saving her, sparing her the pain, is much more important than naming after the father. That's what Rosh Shlomo Zalman said. There's another case, by the way. Rosh Shlomo Zalman is unbelievable. There's an older bachelor who it was a guy he was socially challenged, and he was getting a little older, and he wanted to get married, but he had a precondition. His mother was a widow, and he had a precondition. Any girl he marries has to be willing to let his mother live with them. So his friend says, listen, Zalman, you're no prize yourself. And you're making a stipulation that any normal girl is going to run like the blazes. No newlywed girl is going to have her mother-in-law live with her. Do me a favor, the Zalman. And he said, no, that I need a girl with a golden heart who's going to let my mother live with us. So he said, maybe you should speak to somebody. So he went to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal. So Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said, yes, you should find a girl who is willing to let your mother live with you, and I give you a bracha that you should get engaged soon. Okay, he goes out a week later, sure enough, the girl agrees to let the mother live with him, and he gets engaged right away. He comes back to Rav Shlomo Zalman and says, Rebbe, Mazel Tov, I got engaged, I found a girl, she's got a golden heart, my mother can live with us, Mazel Tov. Rav Shlomo Zalman says, Mazel Tov, now put your mother in an elderly home. And the guy says, yeah, but Rebbe, you said I know exactly what I said. I said you should find a girl who's got a golden heart, who's willing to let your mother live with you. But you can't have her live with you. You know what I'll do to your marriage? That's ridiculous. Now you have no complaints against your girl, because it's not the girl who's forcing you to put your mother in. It's me, Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and now you're going to have to do what I tell you to do. How do you like the foresight, the wisdom of Das Torah? That's what Das Torah is. Okay. So the Gemara says over here, the Torah says over here, you have to give back the item, you have to give back lost items. So the Medrash says that one of the, I don't know if it was a Tana or an Amora, I think it was a Tana. His name was Rav Shmuel ben Susrati. The queen lost a precious item. I think it was some sort of bracelet or necklace. The queen, some non-Jewish queen, she lost her bracelet. So she put out a public announcement. She said, anybody who finds the bracelet and returns it within 30 days, you get handsomely rewarded. And if you, if you find if you give it back after 30 days, if you find it and you don't give it back within 30 days, you're executed. So Shmuel ben Susrati found the bracelet. On day 31, he came back to the queen and handed her the bracelet. So the queen said to him, "Oh, I guess you didn't hear I guess you didn't find it within 30 days." He says, "No, I found it within 30 days." I guess you didn't hear the announcement that, if you found it within 30 days, why are you, there's an announcement, you better. He says, no, I heard the announcement. So she says, so how come you're giving it back now? How come you waited till now? He says, because I didn't want you to think that I'm giving it back because you said I have to give it back. I'm giving it back because the Torah says that there's an idea of giving back lost items, not because you're telling me and threatening me that I have to give it back. So obviously the story ends. She says, wow, you have an amazing Torah, and she rewards him, and they live happily ever after. Now, the rule is, if you find something, since we're talking about monetary law, and you're talking about value, the rule is, don't do anything until you speak to a responsible halachic authority, because some of the items you're allowed to keep, some items you're not allowed to keep. I think there was a group of people who were on Mount Everest, or one of these, I think it was Everest, that they found, like there had been another group that had been killed in an avalanche or a plane crash or something. They found all sorts of valuable stuff. And the government said that you have to give it to the government. There was a law, they said it belongs to the government. You have to speak to a halachic authority because the government does, the likelihood of anybody going up there and to Everest and finding stuff, just because they say, it's like say, I called it. So what if you called it? A shotgun, so what, you called it, but I'm here. So you have to always, because sometimes there are things that you have to give to the government. So I told you yesterday, they had that story in Belgium where these construction guys were breaking through a wall in an old building and they found 49 gold bars worth 9 million euros. Gold bars and gold coins. And the Belgian government, the law is they have 5 years. 5 years for people to submit claims if they're related to the people who lived into the house or not otherwise. Otherwise, then after 5 years, if nobody claims it, so then apparently it gets divided up by the people who found it and that sort of thing. But you have to know what the law is. You have to know from a halachic point of view which laws apply, which laws don't apply. So you don't make any decisions on your own. Okay. The next section is page 1050. This is a mitzvah that applies in our day and age. Very interesting concept, and it certainly applies in our day and age. Maybe 100 years ago, it was not as applicable. Certainly not as widespread. Lo yeh kli gever al isha. A man's garment should not be on a woman. A man's what's the word? What's the fancy word for apparel? Nice. A man's apparel should not be on a woman. V'lo yilbash gever simlas isha. A man should not wear a woman's garment. Ki to'avas Hashem Elokecha kol osa ela. It is an abomination. A man wearing women's clothing, a woman wearing man's clothing, klinger notwithstanding from MASH. Klinger was the guy who always running. Was trying to get he was trying to get a discharge from the army because he was always wearing women's clothing. So the Torah says you're not allowed to what's called cross-dressing. Included in this is anything that is unique to men is not allowed to be by women, and anything unique by women is not allowed by men. So, for example, a woman's not allowed to carry a weapon. Weapons are for men. If a woman is living in a dangerous area. If a woman's living in a dangerous area and she needs to carry a weapon because she needs to carry a gun, that's something else. But that's one of the minor reasons why women can't go to the army. Just a minor reason. A woman's not allowed to walk around with with a rifle or a gun, that sort of thing. A man is not allowed to do things like, for example, from a halakhic point of view, a man's not allowed to preen himself in a mirror. Mirrors for women. Today, a man is allowed to look in a mirror just to make sure that he doesn't look yuggy, that he doesn't that he's not he's allowed to wash his face. Just make sure that he's organized. But to go and admire himself in the mirror, for a man to look in the mirror and think to himself, Hashem did a really good job over here, that's inappropriate. A woman, the Gemara says, "Ein isha ela liyofi." A woman's role is beauty. Women are very focused on beauty. Women are focused on aesthetics. If you ever want to stop a woman in her track, if you want to stop a woman, just put a mirror somewhere on a wall. Every woman who walks past a mirror is going to stop and look. When I used to leave notes for my daughters, when I wanted to get a message to my daughters in the house, I'd take the note and I would put it right on the mirror in the hall, because it's the first place they go in the morning. So I wanted to tell them something. I put the note on the mirror. I know they're going to be by that mirror, right? So I put the note on the mirror. A woman, they call it a vanity kit. A woman has a mirror that opens up sometimes into angles that the most sophisticated military cannot come up with. These angles, she could look at herself from every angle imaginable to man, and they shamelessly call it a vanity kit, that a woman is concerned with her looks. That's why a woman has no problem looking in a mirror, no matter what the woman looks like. She looks in the mirror. Sometimes you feel like saying, "Hey, lady, you want to know what you look like? You just ask me." And she has no problem. She looks in the mirror in public, right? No problem. A man who's caught looking in a mirror very often feels self-conscious. Sometimes a man's looking in the mirror, it's like, and also the door opens and suddenly he's like this, like pretending something else, because it's not something that a man should be doing. From a halachic point of view, it's prohibited. Why is it prohibited? Because generally, any sort of cross-dressing is a way of somehow accessing immorality. It's going to bring about immorality. It could be a man who's invading a woman's dormitory. It could be a woman who's invading a man's dormitory. The idea of cross-dressing, the Torah recognizes that they see in our day and age it's even more than that. A woman is meant to behave a certain way. When she starts behaving and dressing like a man, she starts behaving like a man. She loses her femininity. She loses her innate sense of shame that women are supposed to have, that women do have. Men are shameless. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world. Could you imagine if women had the same sense of shamelessness as men, what this place would look like? So a man has to discipline himself. He's naturally more outward. We're actually more outgoing. A woman is called kvuda bas melech pnima. A woman is internal. There's got to be that sense. And so if she starts behaving like a man and competing in a man's world, we have no problem with a woman getting a job and earning money. But if she's trying to do it in order to show, see, women could do it too. The whole idea of feminism that's poison from a Torah perspective. Everybody, from a Torah perspective, there are separate roles. A husband has a role, and the wife has a role. He's the minister, he's the foreign minister. She's the minister of the interior, which is a more important role. They're not more important unless both roles are necessary. And therefore the idea of a woman dressing, wearing, or using a man's, it would be something as insignificant. A man can't, let's say you have an umbrella. What is a man's umbrella? What color is a man's umbrella? Black. There are three colors. It's either black, or black. That's a man's umbrella. A woman's umbrella could be pink with a rainbow and flowers and that sort of thing. It could be a storm outside. A man cannot take a woman's umbrella and go outside with it because you're using a utensil that's unique to women. A man's not allowed to shave any hair on his body other than his facial hair. A man can't shave his armpits, he can't shave his knees, his legs, anything else. A man's not allowed to shave his body. Women shave their bodies. Men are not allowed to shave except the facial hair. A man can take a haircut if he needs one, or facial hair. He's not allowed to shave. The Gemara says that there was a man somebody did something wrong and they were going to whip him. They were going to flog him. He did some avera. And when they strung him up, they saw that he had hair. He had his hair in his armpits. So the Rav who was in charge, I forgot who it was in the Gemara, he said, let him off, he's one of ours. That means it was very common apparently, shaving body hair was apparently very common, and it was usher. You're not allowed to do that. Women shave their armpit, women shave their legs, women shave their body. Men are not supposed to do that. By the way, the story of Yael and Sisera, remember when Barak and Devorah were fighting, and the general Sisera ran, and he ran into the tent of Yael. And she put him to sleep. She managed to get him to sleep. She gave him wine and cheese. She managed to tire him out. And she went to sleep. And then she took the tent peg and she killed him. Why'd she use a tent peg? Why didn't she just use I'm sure they had a hatchet there. Why didn't she use it? Why'd she use a tent peg? Why didn't she use a sword? There was probably an extra sword or two hanging around. Why'd she use a tent peg? Because the Gemara says, the Medrash, I forgot which was, says, because a sword is a man's implement, a man's instrument. She didn't want to use a sword. So what did she do? She took a tent peg. A tent peg, men don't use tent pegs, except for tents, right? She took a tent peg and put it through his temple. It was a reformed temple. She put the tent peg and put it through his temple. She didn't use a sword. A sword would have been more efficient. So she walks over there. Why tent peg? Because she's not going to pick up a sword. She's not going to pick up a weapon, which is a man's utensil. And that's why you have in our day so much confusion with gender identification. And by the way, Kabbalistically, sometimes they put even something as simple as girls put on a play. From girls put on a play, and one of the girls is going to be the rabbi. She puts on a hat. She's not supposed to put on a man's hat. I've taken hats off my daughters. There's something they're playing around or something. I'm taking hats off. A man's not supposed to walk around with a purse.
What do you do when you're shopping with her? She's got to carry it the whole time?
She carries it. Yeah, you just carry. Yeah, you carry the packages. Yeah. You could hold the purse for her. Yeah, that you could do. But to wear a purse, what?
Well, if they're cold and you give them your jacket.
If it's a man's jacket, she shouldn't be wearing it. If there's something that is kind of gender neutral, and it's certainly like a one of these big winter coats, like a big parka. So they make these things that could be, but that's certainly not for purposes of immorality. That's just for the purpose of staying warm. But theoretically, for a man to give his jacket to his wife, if it's clearly a man's jacket, that's problematic. That's problematic. For a man to wear a shirt with the buttons, men's buttons that go on the right side, women's buttons go on the left side. The Hasidic people put it on the left side in order to not be like the Goyim. But then it runs into a problem. Yeah, you may not be like the Goyim, but you're like which one is worse? Right? That's true. So yeah, please go ahead.
Go back to the body hair.
Yeah.
I remember I looked this up recently because I was curious. I saw that, like in Islam, they allow it. They require their men to actually like clean certain parts of their body hair.
Right.
And I saw online that there wasn't like a definitive answer in Judaism.
There is a definitive answer, Judaism. Yeah. We're not Muslims. Yeah, that's the first answer. I don't know. I'm not sure what the Muslims do. The worst, if they shave their hair, that should be the worst thing they do. By us, there's a definitive. We are not allowed to. You're not allowed to shave hair. The only time you'd be allowed, man's allowed to shave, for example, if a man has to have surgery, and they need to for antiseptic purposes, they need to shave. They'll sometimes shave the hair in the area. That would be permissible. But for what's that? It doesn't matter. What if she wants trave? What if she wants? What if she wants to eat pork? Can't. It doesn't. What people hear. I've heard this and I've heard that. What if my wife serves pork? She made a mistake and she bought treif meat. I don't want to insult her for the sake of shalom bayis. What would you say then? All right. No. Okay. So what you never say. Well, I heard. You get heard from a bird. I don't know who you heard from. If a person has a shalom bayis question because he looks like a gorilla, and his wife is bothered by it, so then you'd have to go to a responsible posek to find out, is there, under the circumstances, there's sometimes young men who go prematurely gray. A man's not allowed to dye his hair. What about a young man who's embarrassed, he's going prematurely gray? You'd have to ask a responsible posek if under the circumstances, because he's embarrassed. But it would be a question for one individual to ask an individual posek. Even something like cosmetic surgery. For a woman who's here, a woman needs a nose job, right? So for a woman, it's permissible because cosmetic surgery for a woman. For a man, cosmetic surgery. Why are you cosmeticking? What do you want to do? So I don't say you can't, but I don't say you can. The assumption is you can't until a responsible posek says you could. But it has to be asked, the shaila. And you certainly don't paskin based on what I heard somebody said, and certainly not what you read online. Certainly not what you read on Google or what you read online. That's certainly not responsible halachic research. You'd have to go to an individual responsible posek. Yeah.
Rules around these can change because I know like the watch originally was a.
What's the question?
Well, the question is, can rules change? I guess.
Rules can change societally. Rules can change, but certain rules can't change.
What about like necklaces?
So that's the rules can be, for example, a mirror, which in the old days, if you found a piece of glass and managed to stain it by burning coal and by burning something and staining the back of it, and you had a broken piece of glass, that you gave to a woman. A man didn't look in a mirror. Nowadays, since mirrors are not so, there are certain poskim who say that nowadays a man could look in a mirror, but what didn't change is he can't look in the mirror to admire himself and preen himself. He could look into a mirror to clean himself off, to make sure there's no goop on his face. Other poskim say they even taking a mirror to look at your tefillin. Some people keep a mirror in their tefillin case in order to see if the tefillin are straight. So Rav Elyashiv, if I'm not mistaken, held that you are Rav Elyashiv and I think Rav Moshe Feinstein. Even that was questionable whether you could look in a mirror. There are poskim who say you could look in a mirror to check your tefillin because you're not looking at yourself, you're looking to see if your tefillin are straight. But if you pull out a mirror and you're checking your tefillin, then in the middle you go like, right? That would be inappropriate. A ring, for example, a wedding ring. In Western society, a ring that is clearly for a man's wedding band would be permissible. In Israel, you could wear a wedding. People think it's strange. Most men don't wear wedding rings in Israel. People don't wear wedding rings. But you could wear one if it's unique for a man, if it's clearly a man's ring. What Reb Moshe Feinstein says is, yes, a man could wear a ring, but not to have a double ring ceremony under the chuppah. That not, because if you have a double ring ceremony under the chuppah, then there is a potential for a mistake that people will think that part of the ceremony is her. You're acquiring her. She's not acquiring you. After you married, you find out she owns you, but she isn't acquiring you under the chuppah. She owns you, but she isn't acquired. The act of acquisition is you. You, it's like buying a car. You buy the car, but the car owns you, right? You acquire your wife, but your wife basically owns you. But there shouldn't be a double ring ceremony under the chuppah because then people may make a mistake and think that that's part of the halachic process. What do you call it? A necklace or that sort of thing. It could be in a society where men wear necklaces which are clearly for men. It could be it's permissible. It could be it's permissible.
What about earrings? Because a lot of men here wear earrings.
Not in Mea Sharim, not in Bnei Brak. It depends when you say a lot of men, which men you're talking about. That you'd have to go and ask an individual halachic authority whether or not if it's a stud that's made clearly for a man, Michael Jordan wears a diamond stud. So if it's what do you call it? But then again, he's a billionaire. Okay, let's go on. Let's take a look at the next one. Ki yikare kan tzipor lefanecha baderech. Again, it's very important that if you do have an individual question, you should speak to a proper halachic authority, Rabbi Breitowitz, or a proper halachic authority who can assess your personal situation and so on. Here, something like a kilt. Something like a kilt in Scotland, they wear kilts. Now, a kilt is a wrapper on. You ever see a kilt? Like the Scottish wear, it looks like a skirt. If you didn't know better, you'd think it's a skirt, except it's completely different. It was worn, they originated with a certain branch of the Scottish army, who were vicious warriors, and they wore these kilts. For a man to wear a kilt in Scotland is not a problem. It's got a certain, don't they have they always kind of look checked. They have the colored.
Tartan. Each one is custom to each clan. So we have Clan Dundee, so it's a specific type of tartan.
What's tartan? What's tartan?
Tartan is the
pattern. It's a specific.
Every pattern is unique to each.
But there's a pattern. But you can tell there's a certain type of pattern. To wear a kilt in Israel on the street, for a man to wear a kilt in Israel is not so simple because there may be a problem of Mari side there. People looking like, oh, what the heck is going on?
A Yid shouldn't be wearing a kilt.
What?
A Yid shouldn't wear a kilt.
They actually do. They actually do, and it's considered. They actually.
The original ones are shatnez anyway.
And if it's not shatnez, if it's shatnez, a problem. But they actually do, and I've seen them at weddings. I've seen frum guys wearing kilts at weddings. It's considered very fancy clothing. And not only that,
I've seen it at a wedding one time.
Okay,
I'm a little mishuga.
Well, I've seen a wedding where they weren't mishugas. As a matter of fact, I walked into the wedding. The guy from England, the guy from Scotland was getting married, and I walked into the wedding, and I immediately made it. There was a mechitza, it was a frum wedding, and there's a mechitza, so I immediately, headed to what I thought was the men's side, and I kind of looked. I saw a bunch of skirts, so I headed to the other side. But there were more skirts there, right? So I didn't know what was going on. So then I went back. It was actually the groom's friends from Scotland who come, and they were wearing kilts. And not only that, I even said to the groom, I said to him, "Wow, those guys came with the kilts. That's great shtick." He said, "That wasn't shtick. That's their fanciest clothing. They're wearing the kilts." So again, to walk around in Israel with it would certainly be very likely to be considered inappropriate. But any of these questions that you have on an individual level, you have to ask a halachic authority. Okay. Next one of the enchanting mitzvahs in the Torah. Ki yikare kan sipor lefanecha baderech. Oh, by the way, I want to tell you something. I once had a situation. I had to get X-rays. I did stomach X-rays. Now we're going back a long time ago. I did stomach X-rays, and those were in the days where you actually received the X-rays. So I don't remember if they sent it to me or I went to pick it up after a few days later, and I come home and I open up the package, and it says something like Shifra Buzaglo on my X-rays. I'm not Shifra Buzaglo. So I opened up the phone book. I figured I got to return a lost object because I got the X-rays belonging to Shifra Buzaglo. So I opened up the phone book and I randomly looked for Buzaglo. I randomly made a call, and I thought after a couple of calls, I said, I got a woman's voice on the phone. I said, "Are you Shifra Buzaglo?" She goes, "Yeah, I think." I said, "Did you take X-rays recently?" She goes, "Yeah." So I think they gave me my mistake. I've got your X-rays. Where do you live? I'll bring it over to you. She says, "Well, I'm actually an Israeli police officer, and I'm right here." She was in this police station right across the street. So I walked into the police station. I said, "What do you want?" I said, "I got something for Shifra Buzaglu." And I walk in, and she was in the office with a higher-ranking Israeli policeman. Looked like he had a couple of falafels or whatever he had on his thing. So I came in and I said, "Hi, I got your X-rays," and I gave her the X-rays. And the guy said to me, "Wow, what a good citizen." And I had a golden opportunity, and I blew it. Because I should have said, "I'm not giving it back to you because I'm a citizen. I'm giving it back to you because the Torah says to give it back." And I was just so starstruck by being in the presence of a high-ranking policeman. So I was just like, And instead, what I should have said was, "I'm not giving it back to the citizen," because I wasn't. I was giving it back because the Torah said to give it back. And I had an opportunity to make a Kiddush Hashem, and I didn't. And I blew it.
Remember the opposite of the Kiddush Hashem, though, because it's like you're putting them down, like, you're wrong, this is what
I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just telling you that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because the Torah says so. And I should have done that. But I'm not Shifra Buzaglu. Now, the next one is an enchanting mitzvah, and it needs to be understood. Ki yikarei kan sipor lefanecha b'derech. You come across a nest. B'chol eitzo ala oretz, on a tree or on the earth, on the ground. Efrochimo beitzim, there are chicklets or eggs. V'ha'im rovetzes ala efrochim o ala beitzim. The mother is hovering over the eggs or over the chicklets. What's it called when the bird hovers? How do you translate it?
Roosting.
Roosting. Lo sikach ha'em al habanim. Do not take the mother with the children. This has to be put in a societal perspective. Nowadays, we buy eggs in cartons. Very few people are going to take raw eggs from a chicken, from a nest, and go and eat those eggs. Nowadays, the eggs are bought in cartons and so on and so forth. In the old days, you took what you could find. And this is called an easy mitzvah. Why is it an easy mitzvah? Because it doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is shoo away the mother bird. Shaleach teshalach esem, send away the mother bird. Ves habanim tikachlach, take the children, the eggs or the chicklets. L'mayin yitav l'cha v'arach yamim. It'll be good for you and you'll live long. Wow. For nothing. All you got to do is shoo away the mother bird. You had a great day. Brought home some chicklets, brought home some eggs. This is called the mitzvah of shiloach hakein, sending away the mother bird. Why do we send away the mother bird and take the chicklets? So it has nothing to do with mercy. The Gemara says it has nothing to do with mercy. It's a Torah decree. That's what you do. Send away. Not only that, according to some poskim, according to the halacha, even if you don't want the eggs, you should do it. Send away the mother bird. Pick up the eggs. Make an acquisition on the eggs because the Torah command do that. Pick up the eggs, and according to some, it activates some sort of spiritual mercy on the Jewish people. That's the mitzvah. Send away the mother bird. Now, it only works, it only happens if the nest is hefker. Not on a nest on your property. Not on your property. It has to be something that it's out in the unowned area. In an unowned area. I was actually living, when I first got married, I was living here in Malo Dafna, 135. We were on the 5th floor. And one day there was actually a bird nested on our balcony. So I asked, Rav Aaron Feldman was the Rosh Yeshiva at the time, and I asked him, I'd married at the time about 2 years, and I asked him what I should do if there's the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKain. So he said, well, since it's on my property, most likely it's not the mitzvah because it's on owned property. But he said what I should do is I should make my balcony hefker. I should announce that my balcony is ownerless, and then send away the mother bird. And send away the mother bird. There was a big board. We had a board out on the balcony. It was kind of between the board and the wall of the balcony. That's where the bird had nested. So I had to go and do the mitzvah. So I called up I brought one of the guys from the yeshiva to stand there with a broom in case that man-eating pigeon attacks me. So he stood there with the broom, and I just went over to send away the mother bird. By this time, the eggs had hatched. The chicklets were out already. And so I walked over. I was more scared than they were. So I just, kind of shoot away the mother bird, and I picked up the chicklets and made a kinyan on them. Then I put them right back down. And then we waited. It took a couple of weeks later. They grew up and flew away. Eventually, they grew up and flew away. Whether or not I fulfilled the mitzvah is questionable because I didn't even have a chance. As soon as I approached it, the mother flew away. And that was number one. And number two, it's not clear because it might not have been, it wasn't I made it hefker, but it had actually nested on my property. Now, the Mefarshim do offer reasons for this. Why is it that you shouldn't take the mother and the eggs? Send away the mother bird. Why is it that you don't take the mother bird and the chick? Gentlemen, I have a rule, by the way. In the Parshat shear and in any shear, there should be no technology being looked at or used at all. If anybody needs their technology, feel free to do it outside. It is disrespectful for Torah for a person to be looking at technology or playing around with a what do you call it? If you're learning Torah, and the technology could leave it either out the room or do it outside, but not in front of a chumash. So there are different reasons offered among the Mefarshim for why a person why you do this mitzvah. One reason is, what do you say?
You're not meant to kill a mother and this.
To kill the mother and the child, but you're not. Okay, but here you're taking them in. You're not necessarily going to kill them. You may keep them in and let them breed, but you don't take the entire nest, because taking the entire nest is a sign of selfishness. Let the mother go off and take the eggs, take the chicklets, and let the mother go off somewhere else and provide for other people. Why grab up the whole thing for yourself? You're going to grab the whole mother, the nest, the eggs, the whole thing. It's all for me. The Torah says, think about other people a little bit. So you take the eggs, you make the chicklets, they'll grow up, whatever it is. Let the mother go build a new nest. Think about other people, number one. Number two, one of the other Mefarshim says, did you ever try catching a bird? Did you ever try catching a pigeon? How easy is it to catch a bird?
I caught one
You caught a pigeon?
on the beach.
What was it? Broken wings or something? Yeah. You actually caught a bird?
Yeah, I lay down with a towel on top of me and put Doritos on top, and then when I felt something stepping on me, I catch
Yeah,
it.
okay, great. Okay. Yeah, what about lunging towards it and catching it?
Yeah, no.
Okay. So to lunge towards a bird and catch a bird is not easy. I didn't know birds like Doritos. To lunge towards a bird, which kind? Probably not the real spicy ones. Probably the real. Okay, there you go. To lunge towards a bird and grab a bird is very difficult. There's only one reason you'd be even able to take the mother bird here. The mother bird is sacrificing for the sake of her children. To take advantage of a bird's self-sacrifice over here is inconsiderate. It's not good for us, what we spoke about earlier. It's bad for my midos to take advantage of this bird is giving of itself, protecting its children, and you're going to take advantage of that? There's certain coarse, there's certain crudeness in that. And therefore the Torah says, don't take advantage. The mother's doing its job. The mother's protecting its young. Don't take advantage of a mother that's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And we see from here that there's a certain appreciation we should have for all mothers in general. And mothers are doing tremendous amount of self-sacrifice. What a mother does for a child, fathers can't do. what a mother's willing to do and sacrifice for the children. A mother can't do that. The most incredible creature on the face of the earth is a frum Jewish mother. You ever see these ladies on the street? You got a mother. She's pushing a buggy. And she's got a baby in the buggy with a 1-year-old that she's holding, a 2-year-old's holding her skirt, a 3-year-old who won't stop talking, a 4-year-old who's crying, and a 5-year-old who's torturing the 3-year-old. Right? And she's just and she's calm as can be, and she's taking him into the house and she's raising him and she's giving to them. She hasn't got a minute to herself. Nobody could do that. And a mother, the Torah is saying of her, this mother is willing to at great personal self-sacrifice. It is the height of inconsideration to go and take advantage of that. Therefore, the Torah says, send away the mother bird, and you can take the eggs for yourself. Okay, gentlemen, we'll continue tomorrow.
Name of the shir?
The test of the nest.
Test of the nest.